Hello, everyone. Good evening. Tonight I'm gonna talk about helpers, rescuers, saviors, all of those people who are coming to help, who are dedicated, especially in the family system, in their family system, to help the rest of members of the family who basically got that role on themselves that they have to be controlling, overprotective. They have to come to the rescue. And obviously, it starts in the family, it runs in the family system, but the person with this kind of attitude, it's like that towards everyone else outside. So this is the person who, like I said, always tries to help, even if he's not asked for help. Or this is the person who is offering help, and if you would agree, then you might agree to help you in only this bit. But the helper, the rescuer, oh no, is gonna do more and this and this and that and help you with absolutely everything and maybe even run your life because you don't know how to run your life. So this is the kind of person I'm talking about. This is the kind of person which, like I said, actually got this role in the family, even since childhood. This is the kind of child who basically became emotional parent towards a parent, towards a mommy or daddy. This is the child who was over responsible, took too much responsibility on its shoulders because mom or dad suggested that everything is your fault, so you're responsible for everything. Whatever happens is your fault, so you have to take care and you have to be serious, you have to be responsible, you have to be a little adult. Yes, this is the child who's actually a little adult very often. So it's kind of sad because that kind of child never had a childhood, never was a child, technically. And later, in adult life, this is the kind of person who never had a childhood, who doesn't even know what that means to have a childhood, who doesn't know how to just enjoy life. And this is the kind of person who actually feels guilty of pursuing personal dreams, to have some fun in life, to have some personal time, to have some pleasure in life. No. Or just simply to have some rest, to be a little bit lazy once for a while, to have a holiday somewhere abroad. Oh no, already the guilt is creeping up. The guilt that I'm doing something for myself and I'm not thinking about my family members. Or what about my parent? What about my sister? What about my brother? What about my best friend? What about my spouse? What about my children? This is a person, like I said, who thinks about everyone else. However, here is the trick. Who takes care of the rescuer? Who takes care of that helper? Because when you are only helping to others, when your basic activity is only being responsible, working and helping others and thinking about others, then you burn yourself out when you live like that. So sooner or later, it will come to the situation where you are so burned out that basically, when you're so burned out, you start sooner or later need help from others to run your life. So let's say if this is a child who right now became adult person and still feels like, oh, I have to be responsible, so I have to take care, or I have to think about my family members, about my siblings, definitely about my parents. And let's be honest, very often parents are, of course, telling you that, suggesting you that actually you're the good son or you're the good daughter because you take care, or you are so sensible, you think about your siblings, or you think about them. You're so protective, you're so good, you're so caring. You should be this way. Basically, that's the message. This is your role. You should stay this way. So, if you're staying this way, nobody takes care of your needs. And the fate of the helper, the rescuer, is like that. You're gonna burn yourself out. And sooner or later, you're gonna subconsciously search for people around you who would help you with your needs. Not only that, if you're gonna continue the role of rescuer, the role of savior and helper, year after year, decade after decade, you're gonna feel like you don't have a strength, you don't have sometimes money, or you just can't do this anymore as effective as in the past. So you're gonna start to think how to carry on effectively, how to play your role effectively. And sooner or later, you're gonna drag into this role, into helping you to help others, people around you, even your best friends. I'm not saying this is happening all the time. I'm saying it's happening quite often, which means you start using people around you because you're a helper. So in order to continuously help, for example, your demanding parents or your siblings or somebody like a spouse or anyone else around you, and still be that savior, that rescuer, you need help in this role. So you would start manipulate and use other people around you so they can help you to carry on in your activity, to still be a rescuer, to be successful helper. That's the downside of it. And unfortunately, this pattern in the family system goes through generations, generation after generation. Because if the child takes care ever since childhood, like I said, it didn't have basically childhood. It wasn't a child because it had to be little adult, basically. So the needs of that child hasn't been met. So therefore, as adult person, would demand or manipulate own children, the next generation, to take care of him or her, to take care of these needs which were never met. Or if there are no children, then it's going to manipulate the spouse or other members of the family. It's basically like, I still have to be a rescuer. I still can't take care of my needs. So you have to take care of my needs. And then it goes like that through generations of children who are taught, one of the children in the family system, or sometimes more than one, who are taught that you have to be a little adult. You have to be responsible. Because otherwise everything is going to be your fault, for example. Or otherwise your siblings might get hurt, or you're needed because your mom is too busy, or your dad can't take care of everything. Or maybe you just have one parent which can't cope with everything, because it's not every time like the parents or a parent doesn't want to do the best. Sometimes the situation is really difficult and really can't do more than that. But I'm just saying, whatever the reason is, it's very hard to get out of this role. But what I described is the situation later where the person basically doesn't know how to live personal life, doesn't know how to take care of personal needs, desires, dreams, goals, doesn't know how even emotionally take care of himself or herself. So it's going to manipulate the environment. It will try to find somebody else around who will take care of these needs. And that's the trouble. That's why the therapy, that's why taking care of personal needs and allowing yourself finally to take care of it, it's so important. And to take care of these personal needs, in order to actually to do it, first of all, you have to find out what your needs are. If you have emotional, psychological deficits, you first have to find out what kind of deficits you have. And if you were a little adult, ever since you remembered, and if you always took care of others, and if your role was to recognize the needs of others, then it's very hard to find out who you are and what are your needs, what are your dreams, what are your goals, what do you really want to do, and who you really are. And the first step on a healing journey is to take care of these needs, is to ask yourself these questions. Nothing more simple? Well, actually it's very difficult, because there is a lot of inner resistance. Why? Because every time you start to think about your own dreams, about your own needs, the guilt is crippling you. Just the guilt is hitting you straight away, sometimes very strongly, like you shouldn't think about yourself, you are selfish. You think about yourself. What about your parents? What about your siblings? What about your children? What about your spouse? What about whatever? Like, the basically programming is like that. First, I have to take care of everyone else, basically the rest of the world, and then if everyone else needs are met and fulfilled and everyone else is safe and happy, then I'm gonna have a right to sit down and think about my own needs and about myself. But this, it's never gonna happen. It's never gonna happen, something like that. Because everyone else around will always have problems, will always need something. And even if everyone else around you will tell you, no, I'm fine, take care of yourself, no, I'm fine, I'm really okay, you don't have to help me, you have a mechanism like I mentioned in the beginning of this video. The rescuer, the helper, will try to help you anyway. Even if you say no. Oh, especially if you say no. Because the whole idea of self-worth, self-identity, it's stuck in this pattern. Which means I'm only valued, I'm only valuable, I'm only worthy of something or anything if I'm helping others. If I start to think about myself, I'm selfish. If I stop helping others, I'm worthless. If I would fail of helping others, I'm nothing. I'm worthless. That's why this is so difficult. That's why it's such a big resistance on that healing journey, in the process of learning about your own needs and about your own deficits. Because first, the resistance is meeting you halfway. And from my personal experience, fighting with this resistance, it's the worst thing you can do. Because when you start fighting with the resistance, it's fighting back. So instead of that, you're acknowledging your resistance within you. You're acknowledging that actually it's within you because it tries to protect you. Why? Because everything you know as a rescuer, as a helper, as that child who never had a childhood, who always had to protect others and look after others, then this kind of resistance actually, it tells you, you're trying something new. This is a danger. We haven't been here yet. We don't know what's that. So the resistance is the result of your programming, which tries to tell you, we never been here, so this is something unknown which can actually hurt us. We have to stay away from it. So basically what I started to do, and everyone else can find a different way of acceptance or work with the resistance, work with the programming. What I started to do personally, it's speaking to my own resistance, or sometimes speaking to my own fear of change. Like, it's okay. It's gonna be okay. We're not gonna die. We're gonna survive. It's safe for us. We will go through it. But yes, I accept you. You can stay here as long as you want, because I know you're here to protect me. And this is the reason you're here. I know you tried to warn me. Thank you for that. But we're not gonna perish. We're gonna be all right. And then the work starts. And also the work of questioning all these inner voices which are condemning you for example, looking after yourself. You might think like, you might start to try, instead of jumping and helping others, for example, members of a family, make for a first time the conscious choice, no, not this time. I'm not gonna rescue anyone now. I'm gonna take a rest because I feel exhausted. At least I will try this time. And you have this resistance, which you have to just acknowledge this and say, okay, I see this is resistance. I know it tries to protect me. I know is afraid. I know I am afraid because this is something new. I know I am afraid of my own sense of guilt, because I'm afraid I'm not going to be worthy if I'm not going to jump straight away to help my sibling or to help my mother or to help my father. And I'm afraid of these feelings. I'm afraid of being called names by my parent. I'm afraid that how I'm going to be viewed by my family. I'm afraid that my inner voice is going to condemn me and is going to tell me that you're a bad person, you're selfish, you're heartless. Acknowledge that. Just acknowledge that. That you've got these feelings, you've got these mixed feelings, these voices which they're telling you that what you're doing, this is not the way. You should go and help. You can't just stop and sit down, and you can't say no. It takes courage to go through this. It takes courage to, despite all these voices, despite all this programming, first of all, consciously, for a first time, do something different, or at least try to do. And this is the first step in the process of changing the pattern, changing the destructive pattern, because the rescuer, in fact, in reality, doesn't really help others. Most of the time doesn't. It just, very often it takes care of other people in areas where these people can take care of themselves, or they can find somebody else to help them. But the rescuer can't stop and it's completely burned out and exhausted. And the person like that who helps only others is basically abandoning himself or herself in life. So it doesn't help others, and it never helps himself or herself, but actually it's very damaging for a person. So that's why it's worth of changing this pattern. That's why it's worth of trying. take up the challenge, to listen to the voices, inner voices, which are coming from the resistance, from the programming. Just face it and try at least once something different. And congratulate the self for trying. And that's my message for today. Kind of thoughts I wanted to share. Thank you and have a good night.